How's it going, everyone? Onorato and Miller, Chris and Ash. It is NFL draft week. We will do a little bit of draft stuff for the social media crowd, Facebook, YouTube, since we're on about 24 hours before the first round of the draft goes live on Thursday from Green Bay. But because the TV audience over the weekend as well, we'll try to touch on as many other topics in the world of sports as possible, too. Giants, of course, have the third pick, but I think this draft really starts with that second pick because depending what Cleveland does at 2 after the Titans take Cam Ward will really dictate some of what happens 3 through 5 I don't know, maybe all the way down to 21 where Shedeur Sanders is projected to go at this point. Kind of crazy. So we've got the NFL draft this week. Aaron Judge is scorching to start the season. We're a month into Major League Baseball, and he just cannot be stopped at the plate. Pretty incredible. Continued on Wednesday afternoon. Jimmer Fredette, the legend, announces his retirement from the basketball world. We'll talk about our lasting memories of him. And, we just can't get enough of Aaron Rodgers as he floats the idea of retirement. Is he trying
to put pressure I can get enough
on Pittsburgh? We'll talk about that coming up as well. Let's get started on Onorato and Miller.
This is Onorato and Miller, sponsored by Alpenhaus.
Alpenhaus, Marcella's, Bev's, Novice, and Performance Industrial. You know what, Ash? Speaking of, let's start there.
And now, dirty, difficult, and done. Sponsored by Performance Industrial.
Bill Miller and his great team at Performance Industrial, where there's never a job that's too dirty or too difficult for them to get it done. And it's not a difficult decision for the Giants with the third overall pick. We know Cam Ward's going to go number 1 to Tennessee. If I'm the Giants, I'm doing one of two things. I'm either taking the player that Cleveland didn't, and so that means Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, or I'm trading it. Yeah. And the only situation I can see where the Giants decide to trade, if they get bowled over with some great offer, which I don't think is really going to happen, because there isn't a quarterback need. That's the problem. There is no team that wants to get up to 3 to draft a quarterback.
Right.
Most teams, if you're New Orleans at 9, you feel pretty good. If I stay here, I can still get Shedeur Sanders. If you're the Steelers, you basically think at 21, okay, if Shedeur's here at 20, we'll consider taking him. Maybe a team moves up into the late teens to get Sanders. But I think New Orleans and Pittsburgh are logical landing spots for him. And I think both teams are content to stay where they are and say, if he's there, we'll think about taking him. So I don't think the Giants are going to have a big market for that third overall pick. Now, if Cleveland takes Carter, the pass rusher from Penn State, and I'm the Giants, I'm taking Hunter. I'm not even really listening to trade offers. But if Cleveland takes Hunter the way a lot of people are now suggesting, and Carter's there, and if you're the Giants organization, you have injury concerns and all this stuff with him, then okay, I can see you moving back a few picks for somebody who really wants that pass rusher from Penn State. But Ash, I just don't see there being a big market. I know there's a report out there that Cleveland and New York are listening to trade offers, but for what? Yeah, I just don't see, unless I guess the Giants were like, we're not interested in Hunter and somebody wants to move up and get him, fine. But it feels like whatever Cleveland does at 2 will certainly dictate what the Giants do at 3. And it's the only way I could see them entertaining a trade offer is if Hunter is not there.
Yeah, and here's the deal. If the Giants are not interested, quote unquote, in Hunter, they should all get fired. All of them.
But anyway.
Every single one of them. They need to take Hunter. I mean, this is the hill that I'll die on and that I've wanted to die on for all the time. No, even when Shedeur Sanders was projected to go number 1, and then he was projected to go number 2, and now he's projected to go somewhere in the mid to late first round, which is kind of one of the weirder things that I feel like I've seen in quite some time for a quarterback. Like we've seen it happen to other people day of, like Will Levis day of tanked.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yep. But it doesn't happen often that 2 months out, he was projected to go super, super high. And now all of a sudden he's just continued to kind of fall. And I understand that it's a product of team needs, but at the same time, if he was that good, there would be other teams interested in moving up to go get him.
Right. Look, I mean, the Jets are the Jets can't convince anybody that they know for sure Justin Fields is the quarterback of the future there. So realistically, you could see the Jets taking a quarterback, the Saints at 9. There are just so many teams that they might be like, hey, we have a quarterback, but you don't have a solid quarterback plan for the next 3 to 5 years.
Right.
So I'm with you. If Sanders was blowing away people, he would absolutely go top 10.
Right. And I just think that's the thing. It's everyone has the Giants have a quarterback too, but I don't think either one of them is going to be their quote unquote quarterback of the future. In fact, I know neither one of them is going to be their quarterback of the future and probably won't start beyond this coming season. But it's not a position of need at the moment. You don't absolutely need a quarterback. There are teams that absolutely need a quarterback, like the Saints. They're in a little bit of a tough spot. The Titans, if you're not going to go with Levis anymore, then you're in a little bit of a tough spot. You need a quarterback. The Giants aren't in that position, so I think bolster yourself elsewhere and just go with. If you decide you don't need Abdul Carter, say the Browns take Hunter. You don't need Abdul Carter, and yes, somebody comes knocking on your door and you're willing to give up whatever to move back and get something else in terms of picks, then fine. But if Hunter's there, you got to take him.
Should the Giants and Jets both draft quarterbacks? If the Giants don't take a quarterback at 3, everything is out there that they might move back into the end of the first round for a guy like Jackson Dart, or at least target the quarterback position at the very top of the second round on day 2. And then, like we said, with the Jets, 2-year contract for Justin Fields, they should probably be in the market for a quarterback in this draft as well. I'm going to say yes to this, because while the quarterback class doesn't blow you away, I think the Giants' second pick in this draft should be a quarterback. And we can talk about whether it should be Jackson Dart or Tyler Shuck from Louisville or Kyle McCord, who's getting a lot of love here ahead of the draft. And for the Jets, I would look at a quarterback here as well. I mean, Milroe is out there, and people see him as a long-term kind of project. Okay, can he play under Justin Fields for a couple of years?
2 years, yeah.
And then maybe he's ready to go, a guy that you can get late in the second round.
Yep.
I'm going to say yes here, that both teams should invest a pick in a quarterback this draft.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on the situation. It always depends on the situation. But if you can still get a guy like Kyle McCord in the second or third rounds, or Jackson Dart in the second or third rounds, but otherwise, are you just taking a quarterback to take a quarterback? Because if you're the Giants, you've got 2 of them. So you don't need one, and you don't need to blow a second round pick on one if he's not going to be your quarterback of the future. So if he's not going to be the quarterback of the future, why bother taking a second or third round pick on that guy? I understand the idea of a project, but a project to me still says this is a project of a guy we are going to work to turn him into our quarterback of the future. Not like, he'll be our second or third backup forever. Like, we're not, you're not picking that guy.
No. If you're the Giants, you have to draft a guy thinking he can be our starter next season. That has to be the attitude. And I think there are a couple of guys after Ward and Sanders who could certainly fit that mold. We'll see. And look, if the season starts 1-4 or 2-6,
then maybe he gets some run early.
Maybe Dable and Shane are already out at that point. I have no idea, but maybe it's a way for them to try to save their job, to say to Giants ownership, look, we've got Jackson Dart, who we moved up to get late in the first round. We're going to play him. Let us groom. It could be a way to try to save, not the season, but a job.
Yeah, both of their jobs.
All right, the Vegas number is 2.5 on quarterbacks selected in the first round, but that one felt a little too easy for me because I think we would both say over. So I juiced it up here a little bit to 3.5. How many quarterbacks will be drafted in the first round? We know that at least 2 will go, in Ward and Sanders, but you already mentioned his name once here on the pod a couple of years ago. I went to bed long before the first round ended. You woke me up when you came to bed, and I said, where did Will Levis go?
Oh.
And you said he didn't.
Yeah.
And I went, what? So we don't know that 2 guys are going to now look.
No.
If Sanders doesn't get picked, that's crazy. I still think he's going to be a very good NFL quarterback.
Sure.
So at least 2. And then it felt like 3 becomes too easy to say yes. So anyway, over under 3.5 here.
I'm going to go under because I think it'll be 3, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's 4 or 5 because this is just how the NFL works. Somebody gets ants in their pants and is like, oh, let me take this guy here because they don't think that they're going to last. So it's always more than you end up thinking it's going to be. Like, was it last year or the year before, 5 or 6?
6 last year.
6. Like, I was just kind of like, what is happening? This is so absurd.
But 6 of the first 12, and what, Ash? They all, other than the McCarthy injury, they all played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
I'm going to say under here also because I'm going to stick at 3. I think it will be Ward, Sanders, Dart. I don't think teams are going to get too itchy for a guy like Milroe, Shuck.
I agree.
Who's been projected at the top of the second round. So I'm going to stick with 3 here also. I just think teams see that it may not be a great quarterback class, but it's a somewhat deep quarterback class. I think teams will be okay saying, hey, we're happy to take one in the 3rd or 4th round and see what happens.
Yeah, I would be very interested to see how the top of the class works out versus, I'll call it the bottom, not really the bottom, but like how the first round QBs work out against the 2nd and 3rd round QBs, because there has been a lot of hype and a lot of optimism about the guys that you already mentioned, like Jackson Dart and Kyle McCord, and a lot of like kind of late build up for those guys. Mm-hmm. And sometimes those are the guys who just come in like a little more, there's less expectation, but a little more of a willingness to like draw it out and work with them a little bit versus like it's just the instant expectation of a plug and play for a guy like Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. So sometimes I'm interested to see how like this feels like one of those quarterback classes where for me, the top could be disappointing and the bottom could raise the floor a little bit. So I like, you know, let's have this conversation in not even a year, like, you know, 9 months when we're playing football and watching guys play football and like, how is it going? I'm interested to see that. Yeah.
Look, by Friday morning, we will have experts grading the draft in the first round in terms of selection. So I'm with you. I think if the longer we wait on this thing, the better, obviously, we will understand. I like that idea that maybe the quarterbacks 4 or 5 through 7 or 8, see how they work out other than 1 through 3. Okay. That's part of your Dirty Difficult done here with Performance Industrial. When we come back here on Onorato and Miller, an absolute legend in the 518 and somebody who became a global sensation, Jimmer Fredette, announces his retirement from basketball. We're back in a minute.
Grab the family and get on the water in style with a Barletta pontoon featuring the power of a Mercury outboard motor. You'll be slicing through the waves with a smoother, quieter ride, leaving you to relax and soak up the sun. Whether you're cruising with a family or tubing and skiing, Barletta and Mercury will give you the best ride on the lake. With their unmatched reliability and refined performance, Barletta and Mercury won't let anything hold you back from having a summer you'll never forget. So don't wait. Stop by Alpenhaus Boats and start your next adventure today. Check out our great selection on Route 30 in Amsterdam and online at alpenhausboats.com.
I'm Jeff Ukelek, I'm owner of Bev's, and we're a beverage center in upstate New York. You're just going to have that wow component when you come in, like, wow, look at this place. It's bright, it's clean, it has everything that I need. Consumer is king. Be able to provide them a friendly environment and a place to shop, no matter where they are, whether they're down here in Saratoga or whether they're up in Queensbury. You're always going to get the same experience when you shop at Bev's. At the end of the day, if you walk in your stores, you're going to see a lot of people that have a lot of pride.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Alphen House.
Ash, you and I have both worked in the capital region for a long time. And when I first got to the area, Jimmer Fredette was at BYU.
Yeah.
He was a junior or senior. And he was just tearing it up, lighting the college basketball world on fire.
And it was all we could talk about.
And I'll be honest, I was like, who is this guy? So he must have been a junior, because that was the year I'm pretty sure he dropped 49 or something like that at Arizona. And I think it opened everybody's eyes around the country like, whoa, this guy's legit.
Yep.
He obviously went on to win National Player of the Year. He led the country in scoring as a senior at BYU, like 29 points a game. SportsCenter was nightly running Jimmer range highlights, not just for BYU basketball, but for the NBA. Like, oh, that's right. Jimmer range.
Yeah.
He led the Cougars on a nice run through the NCAA tournament to the Sweet 16. He was a number 10 overall pick. He, Kings, Bulls, Knicks, Spurs, and then obviously the successful career in China and Greece. In China, he had a sneaker named after him. He had a nickname, Jimo Dashen. He scored 70 points and 75 points in separate games over there. And then, to the Olympics in 2024 with 3x3
to cap it all off.
The guy, I understand. People on the outside will look at his career and say, he didn't live up to the hype from his college days in the NBA. Okay, fine. Mm-hmm. We had a very successful run, now 36 years old, in professional basketball. And today, as we do the show live on a Wednesday, announced on social media that he is retiring from basketball. I wasn't joking with him, but when we sat down with him in Springfield, Mass, before the Olympics, during USA Basketball training camp, I said, 4 years from now, and he quickly was like, are you kidding me? No way.
Nah.
I'm going to be 40 years old. There's just no chance. This is it for me. This is my only shot at the Olympics. And, for him to get injured and USA to have such a disappointing showing in 3x3, that it's too bad.
Yeah.
But we knew that would be his last Olympic games. And it kind of felt like, okay, is he really going to go overseas for another season? Probably not. And I don't know. My question here, I guess, is just what's your lasting memory of Jimmer Fredette?
I mean, first of all, yes, everyone here knows Jimmer, but everyone knew Jimmer before he went to BYU. Jimmer was Jimmer here long before he was Jimmer on the national stage, and people knew him just by that first name because it was so unique, number one. But he's one of the greatest high school basketball players ever to walk this planet. The guy was incredible. And I think
he's one of the greatest college players to ever play.
Yeah. It just, for him to be from this area, I'm from this area. I knew about Jimmer, obviously not covering him in high school because I wasn't covering him in high school, but I knew about him. All the talk was about him. And it's everyone would say Glen Falls, New York. And you're like, oh God, it's people who don't know where Glens Falls is clearly, but he's the pride and joy of Glens Falls, but we've always just sort of adopted him as a local hero. He's the Capital Region's kind of claim to fame, little Glens Falls, New York, Jimmer Fredette, and this nice, quiet family, and he busts on the scene. And the ride that he took the entire country on was so fun because, like you said, it was ESPN every night, his name was coming up and highlights everywhere. And it was wait, this is the same guy from Glens Falls, New York. So I just think the ride that he was able to take everyone in the Capital Region on was so much fun. And then him coming back to play in the Glens Falls Civic Center. I wasn't there, but
I was
seeing
there.
the highlights against Vermont,
Yep.
and just packing that place in, like, what better hometown game? You know, coaches always try to give players a hometown game or somewhere close to it. Whoever believed that he was going to get that kind of hometown game, like home against Siena, okay, maybe, like, but home against Vermont in the Glens Falls Civic Center. I think maybe that's one of my favorite memories of him playing and like coming back here and just all the rage that happened for that. But also, like, and you can speak to it, he's one of the nicest guys you've ever met in your life. The family, nicest people you've ever met in your life. And he was always a guy that you could root for. You always, like, it's so great to see the good guys win. And while I would have loved to see him, like, you know, just light the NBA on fire, I think so much of what he did was so memorable, and nobody's ever going to forget that guy.
Yeah, look, there was Jimmer Mania.
Mm-hmm.
The song "Teach Me How to Jimmer," right? The parody that kind of came out on that. My lasting memory. I just think I will. When we talk about Jimmer Fredette, I will think of him in a BYU uniform. Maybe that's just because I didn't experience his high school playing days. And so my first exposure to him, again, was like 49 at Arizona. What? A guy I kind of never heard of before. And the distance on the three-point shots, right? Think about this. This is, Ash, right back to 2010-ish, okay? So we hadn't even gotten Steph Curry in the NBA at his height, at his peak, right? So Jimmer's long-range shooting was like, for a lot of people, the first time we had seen something like that in such a consistent and electric way. Now, Steph obviously is one of the greatest shooters of all time, and Jimmer doesn't go into that category.
But their runs are similar. Like, the way that they busted onto the scene, Steph with Davidson in the NCAA tournament and Jimmer with BYU, they're very similar. And,
I'm going to guess on Steph, was he like 07, 08, something like that, with Davidson beating Georgetown in the NCAA tournament and that being his rise. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just, I think that they're very similar, and it's funny because Steph is Steph. Like, they kind of go, you can go, but you can say Steph and everybody knows who he is. Yeah, I think Steph's passing ability puts him next level, and obviously, like, just the way he does a lot of what he does, like no look or turns and turns around before it even goes in, like some of that stuff is like the showy stuff, but you wouldn't get a lot of that from Jimmer. Like, as much as it was like an entire production around what he did, he wasn't like the shimmy shake guy. He's not one of those guys that like points to himself when he does things.
Yeah. Okay. But I'm remembering that run for BYU his senior year in the NCAA tournament. And, you know, he had a handle that at the college level was able to get by anybody and into the lane. And how tall is Jimmer? I don't know what he's listed at, 6'2", maybe. But he could get to the basket whenever he wanted. Now, some of that had to do with the fact that everybody's so afraid of him pulling up from 30 feet and knocking it down. But he was able to dribble by guys. He was able to finish at the basket creatively with both hands. I think at that level in college, the guy was unstoppable.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest So I think the biggest knock was like, he's never going to be able to play defense in the NBA. Well, nobody plays defense in the NBA. But going from college to the NBA, he couldn't do that anymore. Like, he wasn't blowing by NBA guys. Correct. So now you're forced to be a three-point shooter. And unless you're Steph Curry, who's doing that well.
Tough. Yeah, I remember a story he told us when I was doing radio about the hysteria his senior year at BYU. And he couldn't go to class anymore. He literally, I think it was only for the spring semester his senior year, but it might have been into fall semester also. He had to stop going to class. He could not walk on campus without being mobbed. That is insane to me. And so he was taking online classes, and he couldn't even go out to dinner in Provo. So he told a
Doesn't surprise
story
me.
about going to, I think he said Outback Steakhouse. I forget. But he and his girlfriend at the time, now wife Whitney, pulled up like in the back of the Outback, and somebody brought the food out. It couldn't even go into the restaurant. Like I certainly cannot even comprehend that level of fame, but that's who he was for a period of time in his life. And I think he still gets some of that when he goes back to Glens Falls. And I do get the impression at times, Ashton, and this wears off over time, but I get the impression at times where he is kind of like done with it, right? Like, I don't know that he would say he doesn't love doing the media stuff, but I do think he, even to this day, he's kind of like, okay, like, do we have to talk about my Glens Falls high school days? We're going to go run through everything again in my career and life, right? Like, and that speaks to his upbringing, his parents, who are great people as we've gotten to know them. So yeah.
But it's funny because when he comes home, which isn't super often that I know of, a lot of times if he's going out in Glens Falls, people who are stopping him, yes, they know him, but they probably know him.
Yeah, right.
Like, they actually know him.
Right,
That's the difference between like going out in Glens Falls and then going out in Provo, Utah. Provo, Utah, my guess is he still can't go out in Provo, Utah.
Yeah.
Like, if he shows up at a restaurant in Provo, you think everybody in that restaurant doesn't know who he is?
Want a picture?
100%. 100% they know who he is. Every single person in that restaurant. He's got a better chance literally of going like downtown Albany, walking into a restaurant and going a little more unassuming and like unbothered than in Provo, Utah or Glens Falls.
Yeah. All right. So Jimmer, congrats, man.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, it would be fun to get him on the show here in the somewhat near future. Just to kind of kick it a little bit and talk about his career. And
now he can coach his kids and do his camps. I'm sure he'll still continue to do camps.
Yep. And his trick shots on social media that you see. All right. Oklahoma City Thunder are off to a incredible start here in these NBA playoffs. Now, is some of this a product of Memphis just not being great? Maybe. And is this average margin of victory a little pumped up? Yeah, because the Thunder won game 1 by 51 points and followed it up with a 19-point victory in game 2. 51. They won 68 games. Although I don't disagree with it, although I don't agree with it, they have the MVP. Is any team beating the Thunder? And if you walked down the streets of America, in some basketball cities, could people name 3 players on the Thunder?
Ashley doesn't know if she can. I know SGA.
Yep, and you know Chet Holmgren, and you know Jalen Williams. Yep.
That's
over time,
maybe
you know Isaiah Hartenstein. Like, over time, you would come up with guys. But yes, the point is, after SGA, there are forget superstars. There are no stars on this team. And just because you make an all-star team doesn't make you a star in this league.
Sure.
So Jalen Williams is a really good player, but he's not a star in the league. He's a really good player. And so if your answer here is yes, the Lakers could beat him and the Warriors could beat him and the Cavs then I just don't think you're paying close attention to how good this OKC team is.
Yeah, I don't think my answer would be yes to any of those teams. I mean, can they? Of course. Anybody can beat anybody. Will they? I don't think so. It'd be kind of cool.
I'm having a hard time talking myself into a team out west beating them. And look, the West is markedly better than the East this season. It's not even close. Like, it's Cleveland, Boston, and everybody else. All the Knicks lovers out there, you have no chance of winning a 7-game series against Boston.
No.
And I don't think you'd win a 7-game series against Cleveland. So for me, it's Cleveland and Boston in the East. But in the West, like, it's OKC, it's Golden State, it's LA. I think that series between Denver and the Clippers is really interesting here. And so I can talk myself into 4 or 5 teams winning the Western Conference.
Okay.
But when you then spin it to me and say, which of those teams is going to take 4 of 7 against this Thunder squad, I think maybe none.
Yeah, this Thunder squad to me is fascinating, and we've been talking about it for a long time now, the way that they hoarded first-round picks.
Still have them.
Hoarded first-round picks. Like, yeah, and still have them is right, because look at that. You just named all those people. Not a lot of first-round picks in those people that you named. Like, Hartenstein's not a first-round pick, but they can only get better. But where I think it gets interesting is like, okay, but maybe that's why things work. Like, you have one massive, I don't even know if I would call him massive superstar. He's become one.
Yeah.
In SGA. I mean, he's a number one. But outside of that, like, if you start adding number one picks to that team and pulling away from what they have, is that really beneficial? I'm not sure. I think what they have is working so well, but it could get blown up by the fact that they have all these number one picks that they could just start drafting crazy young talent. And now do you go the way of Detroit, which, here's the deal, Detroit it is a much improved team from this year to last and the year before that. But do you take huge steps back when you start like kind of bringing in all this youthful number one talent? I think the reason that they have such a good thing going is because it's that like strange mix of they have what they need. It doesn't necessarily have to be, first round picks or top 10 picks to make it work.
Well, my fear with the future of the Thunder and the, as you say, kind of the culture or the locker room there would be if they don't make it to the NBA Finals this year. Do you then panic a little bit and say, let's trade for Kevin Durant? Or, let's go. We're missing, right? SGA can't do this by himself.
Mm-hmm.
We need a 1A. So let's go get, maybe Paul George is so upset. So we bring him back. These are guys who already were in OKC, Durant and Paul George. But I worry as an organization, you would panic a little bit here. Like, what is it? We're missing a piece. Let's go get that guy. And then you mortgage the future of those first round picks to try to get a superstar to get them over the hump.
Because they have so many of them, I understand why you would worry about that. But and because they're so good, you're not going to get a good enough pick. Because I was thinking, well, just go draft it.
Well, but remember the picks that they got are other teams' picks. Yeah. Right. So you're banking on
depending on where you fall, go draft your biggest need and see where that person fits in. But yeah, I just don't think you can just start pulling other superstars and trying to play the game of like the big three in OKC. Like, continue to do what you've done and try to make that work.
Yeah. Okay. Carol's here. Glad she found us on a Wednesday. Melissa's checking in. Love it. All right, let's take another break here quickly on Onorato and Miller. When we come back, Aaron Judge's first month is maybe the best month of his career. And that's saying something because the guy owns the AL single-season home run record, and he's already been a 2-time unanimous MVP.
As red hot as your hair.
Woo, that's hot, baby.
It looks hot. It looks very red today.
It's red, all right. We're back right after this.
At Marcella's Appliance Center, our commitment is to you, providing essential appliances that families depend on for cooking, refrigeration, cleaning, and sanitation, plus appliance repair. You can have peace of mind that Marcella's is here for you today and every day, like we have been since 1957, helping you make the right choice with trusted brands like Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, and many more. Shop Marcella's Appliance Center in-store, online, or by phone. We're here for you.
The great thing about novices, no matter who you are, they're going to put all the detail in the world into your brand. I feel like they have been a big part of my success, making me feel comfortable. This is Harrison Butker, Super Bowl champion kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. Claim your crown.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Alpenhaus.
Alpenhaus, Novice, Bev's, Performance Industrial, and Marcella's Appliance Center. Our appliances, the Onorato Miller household. Marcella's, yes.
Now we've got texts coming in about your hair being fire.
It looks that much.
I don't know. It looks very red today.
Okay. What do I say? Just happy to have it.
Oh yeah, you've got it.
25 games here, 1 month in the Major League Baseball season here for the Yankees, and look at the numbers Aaron Judge is putting up. 415, first in all of baseball on average. A guy, he just hits home runs, right? He's kind of a not necessarily an all or nothing guy, but if he doesn't homer, he doesn't double. He's a big slug. No, 39 hits, first in all of Major League Baseball.
Hit a triple today.
Had an RBI triple on Wednesday, 26 Major League Baseball leading RBIs, and the 7 home runs. Now, he went a stretch 10 games without a home run.
Yeah.
Buddy of mine, who you know very well, is betting Judge every night for the last week to hit a home run, and he hasn't done it.
The odds can't even be very good, despite the fact that he hasn't done it. They can't be very good.
No, you're got plus 120 maybe. I mean, the Vegas always thinks he's going to hit a home run, but he hasn't now. He went 10 games without one, and now he's got another little stretch here without one. I don't know. You run out of superlatives when you start talking about the type of baseball player Aaron Judge is. But
we went into the other night. He was hitting 386, right?
Correct.
Went 4 for 4.
Yep.
And popped up to 410 or 409, something like that. Yeah.
411. Yep.
And now 2 for 4 today, and he's at 415. For me, Yankees, it's the lack of striking out quite as much. Obviously, when you're making it's the contact. I've always said, like, God, just make contact. I don't have a problem with ground outs, fly outs, whatever. Like, that is fixable. The stretches that he's gone through where he just strikes out 3 times a game or, 2-3 times a game, those worry me because he gets in such a funk where he just feels like he's not seeing the ball. And I get it. It happens to everybody. This is the game. It is what it is. But right now he's seeing it. He's seeing it.
And what's interesting to me is, Stanton was back taking batting practice. And so maybe he's back, but who else in that lineup scares you right now? Now, Goldschmidt is off to a really good start for the Yankees, and Cody Bellinger is there. But
there are names that scare you, but at this point in their career, do they scare you?
I don't even know that they're like, I'm talking about Ben Rice and Austin Wells, and if Jazz Chisholm doesn't hit a home run, he's not hitting it. Mm-hmm. How many guys? So Judge is hitting second in the order. Why is he getting good pitches? And maybe he's hitting good pitches, right? And you're a pitcher, you tip your cap and you go, okay, I threw him a slider that was out of the zone, and he, because of his 6'7" frame, was able to reach it and poke it the other way. Fine, I'm willing to live with that. But boy, at this point, I would find somebody else in that lineup who's going to beat me, not Aaron Judge. Like, Aaron Judge is not going to have a 4 for 4 night against me. That's not happening. And to Cleveland's credit, they won that game. So it's not like they were pitching to him and the Yankees won 8-3. They lost 3-2.
Right.
But I don't know. Judge and Ohtani, like, this is the era of Judge and Ohtani. Mm-hmm. And it feels like it's those two guys and everybody else. And there are a lot of good players in baseball, but Judge and Ohtani are up here with their production and their consistency. And then it feels like it's just everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a little surprised that he's not walking as much as you would think he would.
Yeah,
he's going to get walks, but maybe it's just because it's early in the season. People don't care yet. Like, they're just going to let him try to come back down to earth. But yeah, let somebody else beat you. Let Austin Wells and his ugly mustache beat you. Like, let anybody else try to beat you. And when it happens, that's when you're like, that's when you tip the cap. Like, all right, yeah, good for you. Okay. But
is the ugly implied with mustache? Did you have to say ugly mustache? Is it just, we know that's not a good look, people?
I don't know. Plenty of people have it. So maybe not everyone thinks it's ugly. I think it's ugly every time, but
Even Tom Selleck shaved his mustache.
yeah. Tom Selleck might be the only person, but like he's always had it. So it just kind of makes sense for him.
I know.
But
And he thrived in a time where
it's not my thing.
Yeah. How about a weird one here? Former
Real
Syracuse
mustache?
guard and NBA Rookie of the Year Michael Carter-Williams, who you met in Saratoga one night.
I did indeed.
There's
He
photo
wasn't
evidence.
he wasn't really that excited to meet me.
Shocking. He seemed like he has such a sparkling personality throughout his career. Making his boxing day. Now, if there were one thing I wouldn't expect the slender Michael Carter-Williams to do in his life would to be a professional boxer. He's going to make his boxing debut.
Pro?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
you can probably be non-pro and make your boxing debut,
I
but
guess he's on a boxing card. Let's just leave it at that.
okay. Good luck.
This is one of the more surprising things I've read in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have expected it either, but this is, again, like, is he just trying to get his name back out into the Twitter sphere
I don't know.
get people like us talking about him? But yeah, me and Michael Carter-Williams and Kelly O'Donnell in the 4th Floor City Tavern.
What a place.
Oh,
You never
better
know.
and better.
You never know what's going to happen.
The stories are endless.
Spearsy is at the shoe.
Wow, we're talking
It
about
is-
4th Floor City Tavern, and he's at the shoe.
It's almost prime horseshoe season.
Almost.
It's always a good day to be at the horseshoe with Charlie Hurtcorn, but it is almost prime horseshoe season. Okay, now this is like the obligatory Mets fan comment here. Anytime you start talking about the Yankees and the Mets are playing better than the Yankees, they get offended and upset, and that's fine. You can, you love your team and you defend your team. All good. Yeah, Mets are really good. They beat the Phillies on Wednesday because if they did, they still have the best record in all of baseball. They were 17-7 going into that Wednesday afternoon game, and they did beat the Phillies 4-3 in 10 innings. So the Mets swept the Phillies. They're 18-7.
Go Metsies.
The pitching has been incredible. A unit that I was like, this is their pitching going into a season. They feel good about this staff. It's been really
I remember
good.
you saying that.
The bullpen has been incredible. Lindor's getting hot. Alonso's been awesome.
Yeah.
Had they not re-signed him, what would be going on in Queens right now? Because Soto's not producing early on. They're playing really well.
Imagine if Soto was producing.
Do I believe this is going to sustain? I don't think so, but I do worry about how good that division really might be. Like the Braves are not a really good team, and I don't think they become a really good team at any point in 2025. And the Phillies, we talked about it before the season started, aging lineup, good rotation if it performs well. Don't know about the bullpen. And so enough question marks there. And then the Marlins and Nationals are in another category. So the Mets could certainly win this division. Are they a World Series champion type team? I don't think so. I think the Padres are better. I think the Dodgers are better. But I think the Diamondbacks might be better. But they're off to a really good start, Ash. 18-7, best record in baseball.
Yeah, and listen, you said it. If you thought the starting rotation was the weak spot, and that's been a really bright spot, you get Soto going, look out. And things, baseball is such a fickle sport. Things can change very quickly. It takes is one Pete Alonso going cold, and you've got Alonso and Soto cold, and now you can't score enough runs to back up what has been your really good pitching staff. Listen, I'm a Yankees fan. I like when the Mets are good. I love when Mets fans talk, because they get so excited at the beginning of the year. And I have some friends who have talked a lot of that going into this year. So I just want to wait, ride it all out, and see where the chips fall.
Yeah. Brian's checking in as well. What's up, Brian, man? Always good to see you, have you part of the show. All right, let's take another break here on Onorato and Miller. Back-to-back weeks in golf, back-to-back long droughts ended. We'll talk about the one that was snapped this past Sunday, another playoff. Speaking of playoffs, OV breaks a legendary record and just keeps on going. And that father-son duo we've talked about from Galway a bunch. Wait until you hear what they did at the Boston Marathon in their second running of that great race. Back in a minute here on Onorato and Miller.
At Marcella's Appliance Center, our commitment is to you, providing essential appliances that families depend on for cooking, refrigeration, cleaning, and sanitation, plus appliance repair. You can have peace of mind that Marcella's is here for you today and every day, like we have been since 1957, helping you make the right choice with trusted brands like Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, and many more. Shop Marcella's Appliance Center in-store, online, or by phone. We're here for you.
Imagine coming home after a long day and slipping into your own personal hot tub from Wellness Spas. Let the stress of the day melt away as you soak in the therapeutic benefits of the water. Our team at Alpenhaus wants to help you relax and enjoy the advantages of owning your very own hot tub. Now offering a whole new lineup from Wellness Spas, featuring models from their City Life and Peak Life lines. Alpenhaus Pools and Hot Tubs. Visit us at Clifton Park Center and Route 30 in Amsterdam.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Alpenhaus.
This is starting to feel like a middle school or high school drama relationship of some sort where, you break, the guy and the girl break up. The guy starts dating somebody else, and then the girl goes and starts hooking up with his best friend. Maybe not out of revenge, but because of availability. And this is just getting weird in college sports. So we talked briefly last week because we were so loaded up with guests about Nico Iamaleava leaving Tennessee over, again, this is not NIL money, people. I understand we just use the acronym because it's convenient. Yep. This is pay for play. This isn't a car dealership that Iamaleava was negotiating with. Hey, you're paying me $1 million. I want $1.5 million. He was negotiating with his school, with his employer program.
His employer.
I'm getting 2.4. I want 4. I want to be closer to what the guys like Carson Beck are getting, who went from Georgia to Miami. So this is not NIL. But Iamaleava doesn't get what he wants in Tennessee. And it seems, Ash, the entire world is like, good for you, Josh Heupel and Vols. Thank you for taking a stand, right? Like we all believe and understand the players deserve a cut here, but we don't want this to turn into the NBA where the players are running college athletics. Now, I don't want the administrators running college athletics either. They have failed year after year to do that. But at least if you're a coach, like I've got to maintain some power here. So good for Heupel in Tennessee. Okay. Iamaleava goes to UCLA, and the reports are he got far less than his asking price at Tennessee of $4 million. And in fact, he's getting less than the 2.4 he was getting with the Vols, more like 1.5 to 2. So the guy who transferred to UCLA from Appalachian State after the head coach there was fired after a disappointing season, Joey Aguilar, was going to be the starting quarterback for the Bruins. In comes Iamaleava. Aguilar says, see ya, I'm out.
I'll take your 2.4.
And he's going to he's not going to get that there.
I know.
But he's going to go to Tennessee. He's got a very good chance to start there.
He might get more than he was going to get at UCLA.
Yeah, maybe. But this is just, I mean, if I recounted this story to you 4 years ago, you would go, that's not going to happen. This doesn't make any sense. How is that going to happen in college football? Well, here we are. Here we are. I wish they were on the schedule
before they ever played a game.
I wish somehow UCLA and Tennessee were going to play a football game.
I'll go watch Joey Aguilar play for Tennessee when they open against Syracuse.
Aaron Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show this week. Last week. He said, I'm open to anything and attached to nothing. This guy speaks in like...
yeah, his own language. His own... You've been Rodgers. He is
creating idioms. Retirement could still be a possibility, but right now my focus has been and will continue to be on my personal life.
What's wrong with his personal life? What's he got going on?
I don't know. Are you buying this, that he's really considering retirement? Is this a power play of some sort to put a little bit of pressure on Pittsburgh? Or is he just enjoying, let me stir this back up right
Yeah,
before the draft? Let me stir it back up.
Yeah, I don't think he cares. Do I believe he'll retire? No.
Yeah, I mean,
but he's like, whatever way the wind blows. That's basically what he's saying is like, I'm just going with the flow. If, the wind blows me toward retirement, I'll retire for the time being, then unretire. And if it blows me toward a team, then I'll go to a team. Like, he's the most non-committal boyfriend there's ever been. He's just letting teams try. And not that there's any teams chasing him, because there aren't any teams chasing him.
I think Pittsburgh, we don't know it, but they're going to chase.
Well, sure, because now they're out of options. Unless they're going to draft a quarterback, they're out of options.
Right, and I think even if they draft Sanders, you just traded for DK Metcalf. Mm-hmm. There's no way they aren't going to have Aaron Rodgers on the roster week 1 playing in Pittsburgh. There's just no way. They've put themselves in that position where we can't start Mason Rudolph or Skylar Thompson.
Well, then you draft Sanders and you start him. You start him.
You could.
You don't also take Aaron Rodgers, who's just going to cause problems.
I could see maybe if the Giants draft Jackson Dart late first round, Jameis Winston becomes available via trade, and maybe you make a move for somebody like that. It's going to be Rodgers and the Steelers. It's going to be. We're just waiting for it to become at this point. You said he's like that uncommittal boyfriend, but he must just be so darn good looking that girls keep coming after him.
Yeah, they'll wait forever for him.
They're not turned off by him yet. So Rory McIlroy wins the green jacket, and we can end the talk of, will he ever complete the career Grand Slam? 11 attempts now at Augusta. When will it happen for Rory? And this is not to the same degree, but I did not know.
It's been that long.
The RBC Heritage went to the second round because JT had a 10. Well, he was 10 under. He didn't have a 10-shot lead, but he was 10 under after one round. And it started getting kicked up. Like, he hasn't won since the PGA Championship in 2022. So nearly 3 years ago, 58 consecutive starts without a win on the PGA Tour.
Golf is hard.
I
always think that. Like, how often do you think these guys, and I get it, we've been spoiled, but like, how often do you think these guys are going to win? You have to come in first out of how many golfers in a tournament? 4 rounds. Like,
yeah. But 3 years for one of the world's best players felt extreme.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed it.
And then he needed a playoff on Sunday on Hilton Head Island and was able to get it done. And again, not to the same degree as Rory at Augusta, but the emotion Thomas had on the green after he had won, it spoke to him having felt the pressure as well.
Of course.
To try to win.
And I get it. If you play, there has to be some level of you when you golf that like a top 10 finish is satisfying. Like, I played well enough, but somebody else played better than me, because let's be honest, you could go out and have one of the better rounds of your life and somebody plays better than you, and it doesn't matter. It's not that individual of a sport. It's individual, but you're still playing against other people.
Of course.
So I think as long as you're not playing bad golf for 3 years, I think it's probably easier to not win in golf than it would be for like a pitcher to go out and lose, 30 straight starts. Like, then mentally you're just so in a different place because it's so black and white. When you lose in golf, well, only one guy wins and the other 80 guys lose. So I think it's easier to handle losses in golf if you are occasionally in the top 10 or occasionally in the top 20. You're still making money if you're doing that. That has to feel like a win. So like, golfers have to have that mindset that's just a little bit different, where like, okay, I won 50,000 at that tournament. That's a little bit, it's not going to be that, but that would be like a little bit of a win. I went out and won 50 grand at a tournament. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Different numbers you're talking about. Some people probably win 50 grand if you're toward the bottom.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But like, if I was still making money, I feel pretty good about it.
That is in essence the thought of Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
Early on in that movie, he's like,
making the
I still get paid?
I can lose and still get paid.
Yeah. Anyway, JT's a guy I tend to root for. And so it was good to see him kind of get back into the winner's circle there. So OV this year breaks Wayne Gretzky's goal scoring record and did it pretty much on the same timeline as Gretzky. And they have very similar stats in terms of number of power play goals and empty net goals. Now, OV has more of those than Gretzky did. But you're right. It is crazy how aligned they were in terms of number of games played to get to that goal mark. And OV, I think, played one more game, I think.
But that's that's nothing.
And the pressure didn't mount on him to the point where he was not delivering for a stretch. It was like every night the Caps played, oh yeah, Ovechkin scored. The next night, yep. Like the projection was maybe he'll do it at the Islanders in, the middle of like early April. No, the guy broke the record long before people projected him to do it. And then he goes out game one and scores the first goal for the Caps and the last goal, which was the game winner in overtime for Washington. I don't know how, I'm not going to get too deep into it. We've got 2 minutes left, but like how Ovechkin will be remembered in history. He has his cup with Washington. But I don't know that he's going to be remembered the way he probably should. He's going to be remembered like as a great goal scorer and maybe not this great player, but the guy is incredible.
Yeah, listen, he's as good as they get. I think we have this vision, and I didn't see a lot of Wayne Gretzky's career, or that I remember anyway. But we have this vision of when you dub someone the Great One, good luck getting into, like, he's also Canadian, which helps him. If it were an American, same thing. I think the vision and like just the idea and the pedestal that we put Canadians and Americans on is different. We're playing in the continent of North America. So you've already got an uphill battle when you're coming from overseas. But statistically, he is one of the greatest hockey players ever. And there's only one other one that you would talk with him about. And his name's Wayne Gretzky.
I got to get this in before we say goodbye. Sean and Seamus Evans are the duo champions at the Boston Marathon. They did not PR, but what this means, people, is that at one of the greatest, most historic marathons in the world, this father-son tandem from Galway, New York, finished before any other tandem runners.
Of course they did. I said that when they texted us. I'm like, of course you did. Of course you won.
Amazing.
That's what they do. They go out and win.
Their second Boston Marathon ever. I jokingly texted Sean, who's the father of Seamus, and I said, all right, what are you going to do next?
Yeah.
And he said, maybe Chicago. They ran in Tokyo in early March, and now the Boston Marathon, where they are duo champions. Absolutely incredible.
We love it.
Enjoy the NFL draft, everybody. Enjoy the NBA and Stanley Cup playoffs that continue. Thanks for watching us here on Onorato and Miller.